Illusion of duality, positive and negative. Check this out to break free. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Rapid Subconscious Reprogramming Community or the Mind Engineer Community. Welcome back. If you're watching, I want to invite you to type hashtag live if you're watching live. And if not, I want to invite you to write hashtag replay. That would be really beneficial for us. We're doing this for free and we want to share this with more people. So the more you engage, the more you comment, the more people get to see this and the more people get to benefit. So thank you very much. If you're here, let's talk about this amazing topic that I did a very short video some time ago, and I want to expand more about what this really means. So the illusion of duality, positive and negative. We need to understand that from the mind side, from the ego side, from our hurting side, not as the enemy, but as our hurting side, most of the times the ego needs to qualify things between positive or negative. So if you fall down and you get hurt, that's negative, right? So, and if you are able to land your ideal job, that's positive. So the mind along our life is all the time setting in these two boxes, positive, negative, positive, negative. And it's fine if you want to live like that, don't get me wrong. But what I've experienced when I started realizing this game that the mind does between positive and negative was that whenever something negative happened, many times, I was starting to beat myself up, starting to feel like crap because of what was going on. Instead of really being able to learn and grow from what was going on. So the example that I give many times, many years ago, I was scammed $10,000. And back then, very fast, the mind put that in the negative box, right? And of course, I had some struggle time. It was a dark moment. I felt like crap about myself. But as I started using these tools, I started realizing that there was a lot of things that were coming up because of this event. So I started being able to see the limiting negative and false beliefs, the programs, the narratives that I had around money, around myself, around my self-image, around success, around failure, about a man, around family. So many things started coming up that I started to really use this as a learning moment, and it was pivotal in my life. That thing that my mind, my ego had set as negative, I started seeing it as a very positive thing later on because I was able to grow and evolve a lot through that experience that I went through. So how many times have you went through different negative things that you thought were negative, and suddenly, maybe months later, years later, you start seeing that it was the best thing that could have happened to you? And many times we're not even aware of where the universe, God, is taking us. And that's another thing. I believe that we're spiritual beings living a human experience. So it means that we're here to evolve, we're here to grow, we're here to become our greatest versions. So I work with a lot of people that tell me, oh, Tommy, I want to find the love of my life out there. I want to make, $5,000, $10,000 a month. I want to make $1 million. And they bring all these things out, right? What they want to achieve, and maybe they're not happening. So a couple of things to understand. If they're not happening, start understanding why could this be going on? Maybe the universe is guiding you to something better. Like maybe you're trying to start a relationship with somebody and start working, and you're praying for God, you're asking God to give you this, you're visualizing, you're trying to make this happen. But many times we're coming from ego. How do I differentiate? So if suddenly that relationship doesn't work, oh, that was negative. But what if that relationship didn't have to work to be able to take you exactly where you needed to go? You don't know, and you might not know in this life, right? But at least if I start understanding that the mind is setting this positive or negative, but actually deep down the truth, the higher truth, let's put it that way, right, is that it was meant to be like that because there might be a greater good for you that you might not be aware of, suddenly there's no negative. So many people still fall into this positive and negative category as, oh, this is good or this is bad. But actually, if we look from a bigger picture, like for my kids, when I set them to do homework, they're pissed off many times. They don't want to do it, right? They feel that it's negative. but I know deep down that it's the best thing I can do for them because it's going to help them to, endure some uncomfortable things, be able to develop discipline, consistency, learn, grow. So, from my perspective, that is something great that is happening to them. But according to them, that is something negative. So, is it really negative? For them, that's their perception. And why is that perception of them like that? Because of their own narratives in their mind. Some time ago, I was working with somebody, and this person, I was telling about my kids that sometimes they don't want to practice English, they want to speak Spanish. We speak in Spanish in our country, right? So I want them to learn English, to have another tool when they get out there, into the world. And I told my kids that many books, courses, many great things are in English. So it's great that they have that English language as a second language to be able to communicate with others, to learn and things like that. And I was talking to somebody, I was sharing this with them, right, as good or bad. And he was telling me, oh, you know what? I would have loved my mom to push me harder with the English because although, I know English, I would have loved to have much more English, tutors, private classes and things like that to be able to have a better English, than I have right now. So when he was a kid, he was complaining that that was negative and he didn't want it. And then later on, he realized that it would have been better if he would have done more of it. So again, many times we have a small perspective of what's going on, of what is good for us, but we're not seeing the bigger picture. So if you're wanting to achieve something, if you wanted to get something, try to understand where you're coming from. Because when we're coming from ego, unfortunately, there are chances that you might not get it. Why? Because it might not be for your best purpose, for your best interest. Hey, Mike, how are you? It might not be for your best interest. That's exactly what you're trying to obtain. So instead of fighting whatever that is, the negative, right, that you don't want to happen, start working on what happens if that happens. And if that happens, what could I learn from this? Because when we start positioning ourselves from there, from the learning side, it's going to make it much easier to be able to grow and evolve, to learn from every experience, even the negatives. Because actually, as I keep saying in this conversation today, what if there are no negatives? What if it's an opportunity to grow, whatever that is? It doesn't matter what that is. Even the worst things, when somebody dies, when somebody loses their job, when somebody, gets rejected by their partner, when somebody cheats on somebody, whatever that is, what can I learn from this? Because again, I believe we're spiritual beings living a human experience. So we have soul contracts with other people for them to behave in specific ways to help us evolve. So I invite you, I'm not saying it's easy to, instead of falling into, oh, poor me, look at what's happening to me, is what can I learn from this? Because I talk to a lot of spiritual people out there, or people wanting to practice more spirituality in the awakening journey. And many times they still have many parts of them that fall in this victim, like, oh, but Tommy, this is not fair. I want to make this. I want this person. I want this amount of money in my life. I want this. I want that. And it's not happening. Why is this not happening to me? And it's like they're seeing it as a negative thing. What if there is a greater reason, a greater good for you that you're not even aware of? So many times we're seeing a limited story of what's actually going on. And if we were able to see the bigger picture, maybe we might see that it was the best thing that could have happened. In my case, when I was a kid, I was into spirituality, into visualizations. I would, pray for this thing to happen, for this girl to pay attention to me, to like me, to want to be my girlfriend. And in many cases, nothing happened. Many of the things that I wanted growing up didn't happen. The things that I visualized, the things that I prayed for, and it happened. And I love, there's a country song. I don't remember, who the author, who the singer is, but it says, thank God for the unanswered prayers. I don't remember exactly the lyrics, but it's something like, thank you, God, for the unanswered prayers. I think the title of the song is Unanswered Prayers. So now I look back and it's thank you that that didn't work, because that didn't work. It brought me to this, and this. And now I'm where I'm at because of the negative things that happened to me. When I was 3.5 years old, I had an open surgery an open heart surgery, an open heart surgery. Yes. And that could be seen as, oh, that's so negative, Tommy. But you know what? It has helped me overcome so many things along my life that I'm thankful for what happened. I was able to heal the emotional wounds, the mental wounds of that event because it was several things that happened along that side, right? I was able to heal that. So I'm in a different place now because of that. So that brought the opportunity to work on healing to be able to overcome different struggles right back then. And that helped me overcome struggles even today. So was it bad? No, it was what it was. It wasn't positive, it wasn't negative. It is what it is. So when we start seeing life from that, we can break free from the constraints of the mind of what should or not should be. Because so many people fall into, oh no, what if, I should have this, I should do this, I should have done that. And they keep, replaying things in their mind. They keep putting into positive and negative instead of trying to look to the bigger picture, the bigger thing that's going on, even try to connect with higher consciousness to understand what lessons could this be bringing. So again, I believe that everything is a growth opportunity. Even when I got scammed $10,000, even my open heart surgery, even the different things that happen in my life that seem negative, now I can look back and be like, whoa, look at that. Many years ago, I was a teenager and I put some oil on a pan and I wanted to do some, cook thing, food that we have over here. It's very Argentinian. And I put the pan and the oil and I left. I forgot about it as I was doing stuff in my room. Then I came down. I said, "Oh, I'm hungry. I want to eat something." I have forgotten about that. When I got down, the kitchen was on fire. I turned on the tap and I had a big jar back then, kind of similar like this, and I tried to put it under the water to turn off the fire. And back then I didn't know the consequences of boiling oil, even oil that is on fire, if you throw water on it. It does like an explosion and it raises the temperature and it destroys everything around a certain amount of area. So I was trying to get water from the tap. And when I was about to, get the water, there was no water coming out of the faucet. I stayed there a couple of seconds. I tried both taps, didn't work. I threw that. And when I did that, automatically the image that came to my mind that was placed right there, it was the fire extinguisher my dad had in his room. So I run up the fire to get the fire extinguisher. I came down, tried putting the fire out. And as I started doing that, I saw that the water was running full power. So a bad thing in my case made me believe even more that there is a God because later on I realized that if I had poured water into that boiling oil on fire, I wouldn't be here. I would have been dead. And the other day I was telling this to my kids, and my kids were like, okay, but why didn't water come out? I'm like, I have no idea. In that house, and I asked my dad, in all these years that they've been living there, in their, I don't know, maybe 30 years, no, more, sorry, no. We were born in that house, so more than that. No, 50 years living there, that never happened, ever. And the pipes don't go through very, surface to the wall that the fire could have done thing. And the fire was in the kitchen and on the extractor on top that takes the air out and some cupboards on top. It wasn't in the walls. Not the entire kitchen was on fire. And why was it running afterwards? So everything that happens, even burning my, cutting on fire my dad's kitchen, gave me an amazing teaching that I took from when I found out many years later. I was able to say, like, whoa, if I would have poured water in that, I would have died there and then. And that's when I started connecting and say, whoa, so then the water didn't come out. There was that was kind of a miracle for me. That's my belief. I respect if others don't believe like that, but I do believe that we're spiritual beings. So it wasn't my time to die in that place. And I want to share this with the world to help people start being able to think more than just the mind, consciousness, and be able to see things in a different way, to break the cycle of positive and negative. And the negative starts saying, what can I learn from this? And that's the idea with this. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the chat what you think about this. if it resonates. If you have a story of something like that weird that happened to you and want to share, please put it down here in the chat. I would love to hear some stories of people that might have experienced miracles like the one that I went through, because there was no explanation. My parents couldn't explain that. Nobody that I've been talking to lately could have explained that to me, right? It was just, I think that it wasn't meant to be. Like, people suddenly wake up and they cross the street and out of the blue something happened and they die or they have an accident. It's like, why did that happen? Because the guy could have waited 2 seconds or 2 minutes before getting there. If they would have crossed 2 minutes later or earlier, nothing would have happened, because maybe they were meant to be there at that moment. I believe that there are many things happening to us for a reason. We are creating in this life, don't get me wrong, but other things are also happening for us to grow, to evolve in this life. So I hope this helps to start becoming more the co-creator in your life with God, universe, whatever you want to call it, but become more responsible of your life and be able to become a greater version of yourself. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you next time. Bye, everyone.